some people, they'll have a secure credit card and they'll come by and they'll be like, hey, I've been paying on time, I've been watching my utilization. But then you ask them about what they've been doing with their other accounts and it's iffy. So one of the main things that you want to make sure that you're doing when you have a secure credit card is not only.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Calvin Russell here. Listen, I got a very special guest for you all today, as there's been some major changes with credit card companies, as we know, and he has the inside scoop, as there's some things you guys got to get prepared for. So get your notepads out. He does not have a lot of time, and some of you all may have been seeing his YouTube channel take off as well. So, of course, without any further ado, want to introduce you guys to Mr. Nail, of course, with Water Your Soil on YouTube. How are you, Nail?
I'm doing good. How are you, man?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
That's
Cannot complain. Cannot complain. All
That's
right.
good.
So I know that recently, of course, it's been some major changes happening within the credit card community. And man, I greatly appreciate you being on top of the changes as well. If you wouldn't mind, because listen, my audience likes to get straight to the point early. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. If you wouldn't mind telling everyone what changes should people be worried about that may affect a lot of people with credit cards?
All right, so the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, they're
Yeah.
changing things as far as trying to get caps on late fees. So late fees, they're attempting to get them from $32 to $8 for basically all banks when it comes to credit cards.
Yeah.
Recently, this month, actually earlier this month, a judge halted that. So it's still in effect as far as not going through, but that's the plan. The plan is for late fees to be capped at $8, and that should be happening pretty soon, actually, whenever they
Wow.
decide to make a decision on that the judge did.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Now, I know that this has been going on for quite some time, at least the conversation.
Yeah.
But man, that's a huge saver for a lot of people, because I can only imagine how many people have had those fees added for years, whether they meant to be late or whatever the case may be. But that's going to save people a lot of money. So you're saying that it has gone into effect. Has it gone into effect yet, to your knowledge?
Well, it was supposed to go into effect a couple of weeks ago in May, and the judge from the Northern District of Texas, he halted it. So,
Okay.
you know, the banks, of course, they appealed and they didn't want that to go through. So he put a temporary hold on it. So right now it's still on the edge as far as whether or not it's going to go through or not. But I'm expecting it to go through as far as the $8 cap on the late fees.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I know that Biden has been pushing hard to
Yeah,
try to get
definitely.
these so-called junk fees out the way. I do feel where he's coming from, because I know that kind of led to the consumer financial well too. And don't get me wrong. And for everyone that's watching this, they're not just doing this to try to help you save money, but don't look at this as a reason to be late. Okay.
Right.
Real quick, if you haven't done so already, be sure to download our free ebook. You can actually scan this QR code, or you can click the link in the description below. Now back to the video.
Say, oh, it's only $8 now. No, remember, it's really not even the fee. Like, it's not even really the fee, guys. It's more so what this can do to your credit score. Don't forget, 35% of what makes your credit score actually comes from payment history. So make sure you guys are still being on time, regardless of these changes that are happening. And then, Nail, was that the only change that people should be aware of, to your knowledge, or what else is going on?
Yeah. So that main one is the change, but there's a kick to that, because the
Mm,
banks, they're always going to get their money regardless. So if they drop that late fee and cap it at $8, you
right.
can expect these banks to hit people in their pockets somewhere else. So
That's
some people, they might be celebrating and excited about that. On the back end, the banks are like, we gotta get our money regardless. So that was one of the points that the banks were actually mentioning. Basically, they're still going to try to get their money on the back end. So it's
right.
something to be careful about. You don't want to get too excited about it, because
Yep.
at the end of the day, they're a bank and we know how they operate. So,
That's right. That's right. That's right. Now, that's some amazing information as well. Now, of course, I noticed that not only you're not like a lot of the credit card YouTubers out there where you specialize in one particular type of credit card. I see sometimes, a lot of times, people only talk about credit cards that people with amazing credit can have. But what I really like about your story, which actually, let's get right into that actually. So obviously, before you start learning so much about these credit cards, you were saying that your credit, it wasn't the best. So you went from poor credit to about an 800 credit score. How were you able to do that?
Well, this was back in like 2014. So in 2014, I was going through a change, a financial change. And I was attempting to get a vehicle. I had started a new job. So I was like, I need a newer vehicle. I had a
Mm,
vehicle, but I needed to get the motor fixed on that one. So the
mm,
decision was use my money to get the motor fixed or use my money for a down payment on a credit card. Well, not a
okay.
credit card, but on a auto loan. So I decided to go and attempt to get a car. I was rejected. And that's really what started my
Okay.
journey. So once my
Okay.
journey started, I started off with a Discover It secured credit card
Yeah.
with my bank, a secured credit card from my bank with Bank of America.
Okay.
But the Discover It one is really what kicked off of my journey. So once
Mm,
I had those two secured credit cards, they graduated within a year's time frame. I learned everything that I could regarding credit, and since then I've been pretty much coasting.
man, that's what's up. And you know what? I think so many times when people are watching videos about credit cards and such on YouTube, I think a lot of the YouTubers, and there are some YouTubers, like when we talked about, I interviewed Key as well too, and
Yeah,
she said, "Listen, I never had bad credit, right?" And there are some people who just never had bad credit,
right.
and but then there's also people where they've had bad credit before. They've made those mistakes. They're rebuilding. And so, what I really like about your story, Nail, is that you speak from a level of experience. Let's talk more about that Discover Secure credit card, because man, you seem to be the expert on that particular credit card. So, number one, how can people apply for this credit card, and why should people consider it in general?
Yeah, so things have changed. I'll be honest, things changed a lot.
Yeah,
Back when I applied in 2015, you figure I think the Discover It secured card probably was around a year or so. It
yeah,
was new. It wasn't around that
that's
long.
right.
So it
Yeah,
wasn't much info. You actually had to go and apply for their regular cashback card, get
mm,
rejected, and then they'll send you the invite for the
the
secured card.
secure. Wow,
So
wow.
that's the process I went through. But now
Okay.
they made it much easier for you
Yeah.
all. All you have to do is go to Discover website,
Yep.
and they actually have the section for the secured credit card. And the cool thing about the Discover is secured credit card now, as
Hmm.
to what it was back then, you figure all of the information that was out back then was like, hey, you got to have it for around a year in order for it to graduate. It wasn't a lot of information at all.
Mm,
But now, within that 7 month time frame, a lot of people are starting to graduate their secured card with Discover. So I think that right there, the fact that you don't have to have it for around a year's time frame,
yeah.
is down to 7 months now. In my opinion, that makes Discover one of the best secured credit cards around. And
Mm,
plus, once you actually get in with Discover,
yeah.
you actually get to build that rapport, and that opens you up to their network because, as you all may know, it goes far beyond just a credit card.
That's right.
These are banks, so they have personal loans, they have accounts like checking accounts and things like that. They have a high yield, so there are
That's
a lot
right.
of things that you get opened up to beyond a secured credit card. So that's a good option right there. I think a lot of people, if they're able to do it and they're in that position where they need it, it's definitely something that I can vouch for because I started with it. Like I
Yeah.
stated, it's a lot different than how it was when I started, but
Yeah.
it's still a good option.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Let me ask you another question. Well, first off, let's go into you mentioned one point there, and I'm going to go into another question as well, but real quickly, because I know people got to know this. They got to get this information with that particular secure credit card with Discover. That one you can also where it's like it upgrades over time. So what's that process? Like, is there anything you have to do a certain time frame in order to get that card essentially graduated?
Yeah, so with graduating credit cards, I always tell people it goes far beyond that specific credit card. They look at your whole credit report.
Yeah.
So some people they'll have a secure credit card and they'll come by and they'll be like, "Hey, I've been paying on time. I've been
Yeah.
watching my utilization." But then you ask them about what they've been doing with their other accounts
Yeah.
and what's iffy. So one of the main things that you want to make sure that you're doing when you have a secure credit card is not only manage that the correct way, but pay attention to the other items that are on your credit report. You
Right.
want to make sure that you are managing those correctly as well, paying your accounts on time, making sure that you are paying down on your debts that you have. You want to make sure that you're doing those things, because the more trust that you build up with the bank during that 7 months or so, or however long it takes you to graduate,
Yeah.
it builds that confidence in them, like, hey, they're ready for their card to go to unsecured.
That's right. That's right. And you know what, man? I just did a video recently, and people they say, okay, I applied for the Discover Secure credit card because they still do a credit check, right? You still got to get approved.
Yeah, you still got
And I tell people, hey, listen, just because it's a secure credit card don't mean you're going to automatically be approved. But I think that what you said was so key, because I think people forget to not just get, obviously when they get denied, to work on their credit, improve that score, and then swing back to Discover so they can build that relationship. And I
correct.
think a lot of people they just don't take advantage of a lot of the relationships that don't require a different type of membership like Navy Federal or something like that. There are great relationships that you could build with other great banks along the way. And my other question for you is, I know that Capital One, obviously they're going through the process of trying to acquire Discover. Do you think that's going to play a role in the Discover secure credit cards? Do you see that going away?
I hope not, but but with Capital One, for the most part, a lot of people, they have mixed feelings
Yeah.
in regards to Capital One. For the most
Yeah.
part, when I talk to people in regards to Discover, they love the Discover customer service. That's one of
Yeah.
the things that people tend to brag about and talk about. So I'm hoping that it won't go away, but I can see that it might, because Capital One, they also have a secured credit card. What I'm really
Okay.
hoping is that they don't touch it, because
Yeah.
like I stated, I think it's the best secure credit card out there. But that's a good question, because they both have secure credit cards. So what do you do? Do you
Yeah.
combine and make one secure credit card, or do you just leave Discover alone? And I'm hoping that they just leave Discover alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I won't say that Discover and Capital One have a completely different clientele, but I would say that Discover has I would say, a slightly better tier of
Sure.
people simply because of their products. I've seen people first high limit credit card typically be Discover, where it's in the 5,000, 10,000 plus range. So I've seen that before in the past, I should say, for sure. So like you said, I hope it doesn't change much, especially with that secure credit card, because like you said, a lot of people have been getting in position and creating that relationship with Discover Card as well. Now, along your credit rebuilding and building journey, of course, you've had obviously the Discover secure credit card. What are some other credit cards that you have gotten along your journey that you would recommend for people either rebuilding or building their credit? Like, what would be like a tier list that you would say?
All right. So when I first graduated, my two secured cards,
Okay.
the first credit card that I applied for
Yeah.
was the Amex Everyday card, the
Nice.
Amex Blue Cash Everyday. And
Okay.
one of the reasons, I had a little plot that I had, but one of the reasons why I decided to do it is because I wanted to build a rapport with Amex. So to all of you out there, just pick which bank, whether it's Chase or American Express, it could be multiple, it could be one, which bank you see yourself with in the future as far as a specific credit card, because we
Yeah.
know they have all different credit cards, and you just want to get your foot in the door. This is what
That's
I
right.
always tell people: get your foot in the door, and when your foot is in the door, you build up that rapport. Rapport is nothing more than basically building trust.
That's right.
So you get the bank to trust you, and once you start having the bank trust you, that opens you up to multiple cards. So I went from that card, then I went to the Amex Gold, then I went to the Amex Platinum, then I
Yeah.
went to the business cards and the
Mm.
Delta Sky Miles Platinum. First, I started off with the Delta Gold, then I went to Delta Platinum,
Yeah.
considering the reserve. And then I moved on to Chase and started off with no annual fee with them, and then started growing as far as from Chase cars to Chase business cars. So once you build up that rapport,
Yeah.
start being able to be approved for these cars, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never been rejected for any of those cars. Never,
Wow.
never. And I just related to basically building up that rapport. Now, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna say it won't happen,
Yeah.
because we know
Yeah.
about 524 and things like that. But pretty much, I haven't been rejected, and I just pointed it all back to that rapport. I paid them what I spend, and I make sure that I'm always paying on time and managing my credit report correctly. So it's always about building up that rapport. That's important. Very.
Yeah. Absolutely. And not only that though, Nail, listen, hold on, because we about to dig deeper into this. Now, hold on. Now you say you haven't been denied for any of these cards. When was the last time you was denied for a credit card?
Honestly, the last time it was the secure card. Remember, I said with Discover, I
Yeah.
had to apply and then get rejected. So that was the last time, the
Wow.
Discover and secure card. But other than that, I haven't been rejected. Now I'm smart with it.
That's
Of
right.
course, I'm
Yeah.
smart with it. I'm not gonna go and apply for a certain credit card that I know that I'm not gonna get approved for. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't go and apply for a Navy Federal. I know that's not happening, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah.
but for the most part, I'm aware of which cars that I could get approved for. So
Got you,
yeah,
man. Okay, so Nail, bro, that's been like 9 years. You haven't been
yeah,
denied for a credit card in like 9 years. Okay,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
strategy.
yeah.
Okay,
I will say one
yeah,
time they gave me a little message like, "Oh, we have to review it." But even with that, it
yeah.
wasn't denial because when I called them, it was approved. They just wanted to make sure.
That you were you.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that was the closest to being denied that I got. But yeah, I didn't get denied.
Wow, that's what's up. Now I know that, of course, you got now a nice amount of credit cards. How many credit cards do you have now?
Now I have combining business and personal. I
Yeah,
say I have around 12, around
12.
12.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
honestly, I'm getting close to my max, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want to overdo it
Yeah.
because even now it's hard to keep track of certain cards. So I want to make sure I don't want to go too above with it, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely, man. I feel that for sure. And like you said a very key point. I know that, of course, we know Sledge. He's got over
yes,
35 credit cards.
yeah.
You got Key. She's got over 50 some
Uh-huh.
credit cards.
Yeah.
And you said something that was key as well, too. No pun intended to Key. Shout out to Key, by the way. But you said something very important, though. You said your max. And I think a lot of people, you guys, you have to have whatever that number is for you. And that doesn't mean that that number cannot change in the future if
Correct.
you want what that comes with, right? Which
Yeah.
is you get the credit card. Obviously, you want to use it a certain way. Otherwise, you're just adding an annual fee bill, right? And if you're not maximizing the points, the rewards, or the reason in particular why you need these credit cards, you're just going to be just trying to apply for stuff and you're not going to be doing it in a certain type of strategy. You know, you guys want to do it like Nail is doing. Okay. So also, too, make sure you guys go ahead. Listen, he drops these gems on all the credit cards that he has, personal credit cards, business credit cards, Amex, you name it. Again, he's giving this information. Head on over to his YouTube channel. Make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to him as well. If you guys want me to bring Nail back, make sure you guys let me know inside the comments as well. Just put in there, bring him back. Okay. And we most definitely will do so. And of course, make sure you guys like this video, share this video, and subscribe as well. Now, Nail, let's actually stretch that out a little bit more because I want people to know. Obviously, when you get these credit cards, how often are you applying for these credit cards?
I try to be smart with it. I spread it out,
Okay.
honestly, because I know some people, they go back to back to back, but I try to spread it out. I honestly don't get a credit card unless I have a need for it.
Mm,
I'm not really too into the just applying for a credit card because it's cool or
yeah.
even when it comes to certain things as far as intro bonuses. Now, if I
Yeah.
catch an intro bonus, then I'll consider applying.
Yeah.
But I basically get my credit cards based off a need. So let's say I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling or I'm going to be doing a lot of things for my business. I'll get it off a need. So that's
Mm,
basically how I like to do it. I don't
okay.
just go and get them just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Because, I'll be honest, it's addicting. Credit cards, that approval,
Yeah.
getting that approval,
Yeah.
it's addicting. You get that approval and it does kind of, feed the ego for some people.
They
But
do.
you have to calm yourself sometimes because you can land yourself in some big time trouble
That's right.
just constantly getting new credit cards because it's going to be something inside of you that makes
Yeah.
you want to reach and hit that intro bonus. Who wants to leave an intro bonus
On the
on the
table.
table?
That's
So
right.
you're going to keep trying to hit those intro bonus. Next thing you know, you look up and you got credit card debt. So
Yeah, that's
got to
right.
be careful. Yeah.
Got to be careful on that, man. And you said again, another key point is, as you're applying for these credit cards, you got to be careful. You'll find yourself into some trouble. And let's talk about that. How did you go from not having the best credit. Obviously, there were some mistakes you made in the past, maybe some bad habits or whatever the case may be. And for you to almost like flip overnight, like, was there a strategy that you had? Was there some books that you read, or you just say, listen, I just got to stop spending my money or a certain way, or using my credit cards a certain way?
Honestly, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. It was shame and embarrassment that getting
Mm,
rejected, because I went into a little bit of what happened with the car dealership. I actually had to return my car. So they
mm,
approved it, but I had to return it. So just that embarrassment and that
yeah,
shame, that lights a fire in you, you know? So
yeah,
it was that. It was the shame, the having to return your car. I was like, I never want to go through this again.
that's
So
right.
I just went and sought out as much information as possible on credit. And a lot of my earlier days, like with the secured card, it was a lot of learning and a lot of
Yeah,
trial by error. But I
yeah,
always tell people, like, the best way that you're going to learn, you can read all of the information that you want,
that's
but the
right.
best way you're going to learn is through your own, your own doing. Your credit score is going to tell you every month how you're doing.
Yeah,
Basically, it's like your little physical or a checkup or whatever. It's going to let you know whether what you're doing is right or what you're doing is wrong. It's going to let you know, so you got to pay attention to it on a month to month basis. And that's pretty much what I did. I remember one time earlier in the journey, got my score up to a 660.
mm,
You figure on that on your way up, you like, yeah, my score is going up. You feeling good about yourself.
that's right.
Then it just stopped. And the next month came 660. The next month,
Mm,
660. The next month, 660. And I'm doing everything right, paying on time,
yeah,
sure I'm not late, paying my bills. And it stayed like that for 9 straight months. Now just think, I'm new to learning about credit cards and credit scores, and it's early in the journey, so it's easy
yeah,
to get discouraged. But I decided to keep going. And that should be a message to all of you. Like, you control your score, but in a way, you kind of don't control your score. You
mm.
have majority of the control, but there are some parts that, like that 660, even though I'm doing everything right, paying on time and things like that, I had no control over that. It just stayed the same for 9 straight months. So no matter if your score is moving a little bit or if it's moving a large amount, you want to make sure you stick with what you know, and that's doing things the correct way. You got to stick with the principles. That's important.
That's right. Stick with the principles. Stick with the principles. And you know what? It seems like everyone has like that day of disgust, or that day
Yes,
that turns their life around, says, listen, I
correct.
can't keep doing this,
Nope.
Uh, like you said, it's, and especially as adults, because it's not like when you were a kid and it's like, somebody comes and say, oh, you just do this, or they put a band-aid on it or something like that, or they tell you a white lie, it's like, no, you got to be real with yourself,
Absolutely.
and that's the only way that pivot and that change is going to happen for sure. So again, listen, guys, I told you, I'm only bringing you all the best people that know what they're talking about in this credit card game, okay? Or just in the credit game in general. And these are people that are just like you. They've been there. They've been denied before. They've had the credit score that they wasn't proud of. They had the auto loan they had to turn in, but it can turn around for you. And when you are listening to people who made that pivot, who made that change, listen, if you are who you hang around, and if you guys keep listening to people like myself, like Nail, you will get your goals accomplished. You will be able to make that change. Make sure you guys go ahead and check out his YouTube channel as well. Nail, as we wrap up, is there anything that you want to leave, or some advice that you want to leave with people as they are along their credit card journeys, whether it's, building or rebuilding? Or what are some things that you want to leave with the people?
Yeah, if you're just starting out, because I know there are people who just starting out, and even
Yeah.
those of you who are, you've been learning about credit and credit cards for a while, and maybe you're trying to hit excellent, the 800s or whatever it may be. The key is, like I said earlier, is to make sure you know the basic principles, stick to those principles, and just keep going, because that's going to be the key to keep going. Because it's easy to quit. You figure, when I had the 660 credit score, I could have quit. I
Mm,
could have stopped. I could have said, you know what? I'm not doing this.
yeah.
Because, oftentimes people come by my channel and they say that. They say, hey, the credit scoring system is rigged, it's fixed. And I get that a lot.
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
do what you're supposed to do and what you need to, and just stick with it, eventually it's gonna click. It's
Yeah.
gonna click eventually. But the key is how much inside of you do you have to go through with it? Or
Yeah.
do you just want to quit on it? So just try to go through with it. That's most important, and see
Yeah.
the results through.
Absolutely. And you know what? You hit on another point too, is that people always blame something else, right?
Correct.
They say,
Correct.
man, the system is rigged, this.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There are some things I don't agree with the credit algorithm, but guys, there's nothing you can do about
Nothing.
it.
Nothing.
So, the rule is this isn't like you at somebody's house and you playing Uno and all of a sudden they got some house rules, okay? So
Correct.
listen, you will lose some family members with some of these Uno house rules, okay? So,
Correct.
but anyway, saying that to say it is what it is, and
Yep.
you have to put yourself in position, learn this information. I mean, when you watch videos like that, like Nail, or you just honestly apply the information that he just mentioned, that shortens your learning curve.
Correct.
I think people, they're not watering their soil. Which, by the way, Nail, how did you come up with that name? What made you call the YouTube channel Water Your Soil? And what made you start a YouTube channel anyway?
Yeah, so I have a book. Actually, I have a book. So before I started YouTube, my book was already out. But
Mm,
I just decided to go on YouTube because I was like, I got a book. In order for me to open myself up to more people, why not use YouTube? Because YouTube, it opens you up to people you more than likely would never meet. Probably wouldn't have met you without
yeah.
YouTube. It opens you up to people you will never meet. And the term water your soil, it just basically means pouring into yourself. And that
Mm,
goes beyond credit and credit
that's
cards.
right.
That's no matter what you do. If you're an athlete or a pilot, whatever,
Yeah.
teacher,
Yeah.
it just means pouring into yourself, so you will grow more.
That's right, man. Listen, we got to promote that book, man. Is it on Amazon?
Yeah, it's called Strategies to Master Credit. It is on Amazon.
Nice. Strategies to Master Credit on Amazon. So check this out, guys. We're going to put the link for that book in the description below. That way, you guys, it'll take you directly there and you guys can learn more about the book. And of course, go ahead and grab that book as well. So not only is he giving you guys the YouTube information as he's learning this information, but of course, you can also just take the time and say, listen, I'm more of a reader. So you guys can go ahead and get that information as well. Well, thanks again, Nail. We greatly appreciate you dropping the gems for the audience today. And I'm sure it won't be a problem to get you to come back, will it?
Oh, no doubt. I'm definitely coming back. So as soon as I get the invite, I'll be back.
You got it, boss. All right, man. Thanks again for your time. We greatly appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.